Hi, it's Tess. For those that don't know me, I'm a bariatric patient. I've completed 8 years post-surgical. I am in year 9. For the past few days, I've been talking about a book that I've been reading and listening to on Audible, which is John Maxwell, The 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication. And today I ran across a section that talked about adding value. And that one kind of tickled me a little bit more because often since I've gone live for quite a few years, I've had people reach out to me asking me, how do you add value to someone? And I've never really known how to answer that question because I just am who I am and I don't know. And I thought, well, maybe there's ways I can be better at it. So I'm going to dig into this section a little bit more. And what I really liked is it had a lot of quotes because we all know I love quotes. So we'll start this one right out of the gate with a quote because the book actually started with a quote. And the quote is, Maya Angelou, "People may forget what you say, but they never forget how you make them feel." And I thought that was such a beautiful quote. And anyone who's followed Maya Angelou knows that that is how she was and how she looked at life and always tried to see the best and the good in everyone. And I thought, well, that's probably a really beginning point to value add to people. And in the masterminds that I've been going to and in the groups that I've been with lately, people ask me that often, and I'm flattered that people feel that I know the answer to that, but I didn't really know how to respond to it. So I think that talking about it, it says that the most important things you want to keep in mind is when you're value adding to someone, and I see a few on, so thank you for being here. You want to make it about the other person, their family, their interests, their latest work projects. And I think, and it was making me think about a story. I was dating a guy once, and I can remember we were at a wedding, and we walked out of the wedding, and he looked at me and he said, "I worked with that guy for 10 years and I didn't know he was married and I didn't know the name of his kids. How did you know that?" And I'm like, how did you not know that? You worked with him for 10 years. How did you not know that? And it just made me realize that people look at things differently. And when I was reading this chapter, I'm like, oh, I just naturally, or I was groomed or grew up in an environment where I have a natural interest in people. I care about them. I want to hear what they have to say or what's going on in their life. So it was really funny when he said that to me. I'm like, how do you work with someone for 10 years and you don't know their kids, you don't even know if they have kids, let alone what their kids' names are? So that was one of those ahas. So maybe that's what they consider adding value, but that's just how I considered living life. And the next thing they talked about is more ways of how to add value. And they said, live good values, because if you are living good values, then it'll allow you to identify and give good values to those around you. So it's kind of like practice what you preach. If you're living it, then you recognize it and you help others in that same vein. And it says also, the next one, probably no surprise, do the right thing for the right reason. And I added something, and feel good about it. Because if you do the right thing for the right reason and you hold a grudge, you blew the whole thing. You know, it's like if you give, I think this is really important since we're getting into a holiday season. If you give with the best of intents and don't second guess what that person does after you give. You walk away knowing that you gave from your heart in the best place, and you don't second guess whether they did something wrong with that. If you felt that that was what you needed to do at that moment, then that is what you needed to do at that moment, and you have to trust that they'll end up in the right place. And it was kind of interesting. They gave a couple of examples on how to value add to people. Words of encouragement. Every day value people, believe in them, and unconditionally love them. And the words of encouragement, that kind of hit me because when we went into lockdown and everybody was being so mean to sales cashiers, and in general, society is kind of mean anyway. And I kind of made a point at that time. I think I've always done this, but I actually was more conscious of it, really, really trying to, because I've always been a person, because I have like 3 uncles that were Vietnam vets, and my grandfather was a veteran of World War II, and my great-great-grandfather was in something. And I mean, my cousins, I have probably 3-4 cousins that were in Desert Storm. My best friend just retired from 30 years. Her husband retired from 30 years. They were naval officers. So there's a lot of military. So I always have been a person to look for a shirt or a hat or a belt buckle that'll identify a veteran, and then I always thank them for their service. So that is something that I've always done. But what happened during lockdown is I thought, is there a way I can make this job easier for all these people that are stuck in these stores that, they're dealing with a bunch of cranky people? Because, you know what, a lot of people were very cranky. What can I do? So what I started doing is looking for something to compliment someone on, and it carries through to this day. It doesn't have to be something I would do. Like if somebody had multiple colors of hair or earrings in certain places on their face, it might not be something I would do, but if I liked the way it looked on that person, I could give a genuine compliment and say, I really love that. It may not be what I would do, and I don't have to tell them that because that diminishes it, but if I say, hey, I really like that, and I genuinely like that, I gave them a compliment. And I will tell you, it works 100% of the time. If I see somebody, and I always try to do it, like if I see a cashier in a store, I'll try to see something. Do I like their nails? Do I like their earrings? Do I like the color of their hair? I always try to find something that I genuinely like, and I try to compliment them on it. Just because I think that work is hard when you're dealing with a bunch of cranky people all the time. Because we've seen the cranky people, and I don't want to be known as one of those cranky people. So another thing they talked about is Zig Ziglar. And Zig Ziglar, it's kind of interesting because I did a keynote speech with Dan Clark. And Dan Clark is the youngest Speaker Hall of Fame inductee. And Dan Clark trained under Zig Ziglar. So whenever I see his name, I love that because Zig Ziglar has a meaning to me because I actually coached under one of his proteges. So Zig Ziglar says, if you help people get what they want, they will help you get what you want. And Kristen Algall says that all the time. Doc V says that all the time. So, and you know what? They're both friends with Dan Clark, so they all kind of go through that same line. But what that made me think about too is, if you help people get what they want, they'll help you get what you want. And people will sometimes say, how do you know what to do to help them? And I've thought about that a lot. And I'm going to say it's relationships and proximity. If you're around somebody because you're going to the masterminds or the events, you will get to know them. And then something might pop out and you go, oh, hey, I know somebody who does that. I could connect you up. Or, oh, hey, it's that kind of thing. It's the relationships and the proximity that provides the opportunity. So it's not like, because I've known people who will send a note and say, how can I add value to you? But it's hard for you, like when you've got 500 things going on, to stop and say, okay, so what do you know? What do you do? How can you help me? It's hard to do that. So I think it's in being around people and being in proximity that you can actually identify something on your own. And then it's kind of a surprise to the person. They're like, oh, it's like a surprise. It's like you got a present at the front door and you're like, oh, wow, they thought about me and they recognize that I like this and they sent it to me. It's that kind of a thing. And I think that makes the value add even stronger because it wasn't you just, because it's almost, it's up leveling it. If you say, how can I add value to you? That's the beginning stage. But once you have that relationship, you might spot it and that's up leveling it. That makes it even more personal. It makes it more special. So that is why I think going to the events and spending time and proximity is really important. The next thing it says, start with the person first and then work backwards. That way you can put the person first, and then as you have that relationship with that person, you can identify by going backwards what you could do to possibly help them. And of course, now I have another quote that popped up, and these are all out of the John Maxwell book, so I have to give credit where credit is due, but I love these, so I didn't even have to look any up today. And Mark Twain talked about, and this one was about a cat, so we know I'm going to love that because I have two of them, and one of them was just over here a minute ago. I don't know where he went. But Mark Twain says, we should be careful to get out of an experience only the wisdom that is in it and stop there. Just stop there. Lest we be like the cat that sits on the hot stove lid. She will never sit down on a hot or a cold stove lid again if they stay on the one that's hot for too long because they'll get burned. And I thought, that is so true because sometimes we push too far. Sometimes, and I know this has happened to me because I lost so much weight, my balance is messed up sometimes. So inevitably, people want to help me because I'm still wobbly. I got to work on that. I'm still wobbly in cases like climbing on rocks and stuff like that. Sometimes I'm wobbly. Well, everybody wants to run and grab and help you, but the thing is, I want to do it myself because I don't want to rely on other people. I want to get back. My point is to get back as close to what I was before everything went haywire as I can. So, being there so that I can reach a hand up if I need it is fine. But I've had times where I've had like 5 people grab, like I can remember, and I was in Secret Knock, and I didn't tell anybody who, I never told anybody it was me, but I was at Secret Knock, it might have been the second year I was at Secret Knock. Yeah, it was the second year because the Money Multiplier team does not even know this. They had these big signs up, and there were like 3 or 4 of them, and there were some stairs going upstairs. And I was walking on the stairs behind that big, huge sign, and I missed a step. And it wasn't that I couldn't walk up the steps. I missed a step because it was dark, and we were all going up the steps. And as I started to walk up the steps, I missed a step, and I started to go down. Well, I would have caught myself, but like 8 people grabbed me, and when they grabbed me, they weren't all even, and it was trying to keep myself balanced. So sometimes, if one person had helped me, it would have been different. But when so many people, at the end was I landed on the ground, but I did get back up, no problem. But then all of a sudden, they're like trying to direct me to the elevator, and I'm like, no, I don't need to go to the elevator. It's just simply that so many people grabbed at me that it took my balance to even a worse place. But I was kind of grateful for that big, huge white sign that they had with the Money Multiplier stuff, because except for the people that helped me, nobody else ever found out about that little episode. But it was so funny because it was a case of too many people reaching out, and it just made it worse than it really would have been. The next thing that we're talking about is there's the golden rule. Do what you say and say what you mean. You want people to be able to rely on your word and trust that what you say you're going to do, you're going to do. Or if you're not going to be able to do it, just let them know, to my best of my ability, this is what I think I can do, or let me, I think, and I have to do this myself because I'm doing a new part of reaching out to clients and stuff with Chris Nagel's crew. And I make sure that if I don't know, I say, I'll be happy to check on it, but I don't know. And I think people value that you're honest about that than to lie to them and give them bad information. I just think we want to be as honest as possible. And I think it's okay to say you don't know. Hey, I don't know that exactly. I think I know, but let me check and confirm, and I'll get back to you. And I think that is the way we want to live our life all the way around, because there's credibility, there's reliability, and there's trust. And that's when you build that relationship. And once you build that relationship, that's when you know the person. And when there's a value add, you'll identify it and you'll go, oh, hey, I might be able to do that for them. And it feels good. I think it even feels better when something pops up that you can do for somebody that they're totally not going to expect. I think that even feels better. That surprise, that element of surprise makes it even better. It's not is special if you say, how can I help you? And they tell you how you can help them. It's more special when you can figure it out and you surprise them with what you're able to help them with. But it's okay to ask sometimes too, but don't be totally lazy and expect them to always tell you. Try sometimes to see what you can find too. And this number 5, I think, is crucial all the way around. We've all walked into it. Value everyone. We've all had those moments, and I had it recently within the past 2 months where I was being introduced to somebody, and I said one sentence, and I got like three words into sentence 2, and the person just walked away. And I'm like, And I thought, no, I'm not taking that personal, because that's an indication of who they are as a person, and they're not valuing people. They're putting people on levels. If you don't live in this neighborhood with this amount of money, you're not this kind of person. And I thought, well, if that's who you want to live as a person, that's on you. That's not on me. So I think in that case, you have to let it go. And that can be anybody. There are some people based on degrees, or some people based on cars they drive, or some people based on, like I said, educational, or where they work, that kind of thing. But if somebody is one of those type of people where they don't value people, don't waste your time. Find the people that do value people, because everybody. I think there's more people that value people. Don't chase the people that don't want you. It's kind of like what we're being told a lot now. Find out who your client is and service the people that want the service. Don't spend a lot of time trying to beg somebody to service them. Work with the people that truly want to be helped. And that will actually make you feel better, and it will make them feel better too. The next thing they talk about is just some tips on how to make this move forward. Number one is focus on sowing and not reaping. And that's kind of the thing. If you plant the garden and you take care of the garden and you sow the seed, the harvest will be amazing. And I know this for a fact because my garden gets out of hand. If I spend the time that I need to on it, it goes out of hand. And I have so much stuff that I'll put freezers full of like vegetables and stuff for my smoothies in the winter. The next thing they talk about is how you view things is how you do things. So it is a case of if you think somebody's of less value to you, then you're going to view them as a less important person. And everybody falls on hard times. Everybody has good times. Everybody has something underneath that we can't see. So everybody should be viewed equally and fairly. They might have different points in their life, and everything's not always equal and fair, but I can treat people the same no matter what their background is. And that's who I want to be. I want to be super nice to anyone, no matter who they are. And that's the other part of that is be careful categorizing people as all or nothing. You don't want to categorize a group. Like this particular book talked about the idea of millennials. There's a lot of classifications for millennials, and you want to be careful about doing that because there are good people everywhere, and you don't want to dismiss somebody because of a category they fall into. And I think in my life that happened a few times too because I am a natural redhead. And as a natural redhead, there was all kinds of drama about that for a period of time. But, you know, it is what it is, and it doesn't indicate how smart you are, or it doesn't indicate anything, really. It's just what God gave you. That's the color that you're going to get, and that's the way it is. So we don't want to judge people. We don't want to categorize people. We want to look at each person individually and see what their gift is, because all of our gifts are different and unique and beautiful and should be shared with the world. Another thing it says is, and this is a cool one, and again, this is from John Maxwell, the 16 Undeniable Truths About Communication. He says, put a 10 on the head of every single person that you meet. Give them 10 out of 10 from the start every single time. And isn't that a better way? You learn that take the best out of everybody right from the get-go. And then if it changes down the road, you at least gave them a chance. You didn't dismiss anything right out of the gate. And then they also said, lift your likability level. And I thought this was kind of interesting. It talks about how you just be more caring. And how are you more caring? It's not words, it's action. And I thought that goes back to people asking me, how do I add value? It's not words, it's actions. It's things that you do that help people to move forward. This was a Simon Sinek quote, and I thought this was another good one. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So that's back to this likability. And I think that's true. And I think also, I can't sell something unless I believe in it. I have to totally believe in what I'm telling you. So I don't consider myself a salesperson, but I will share with you something that I totally, from the bottom of my heart, believe in. And that's a difference. People can feel that. If you believe in what you are talking to them about, they can feel it. When I worked in the bookstore, it used to be kind of funny because I oversaw the children's the children's books area, and I did all the children's story hours, and we'd bring in characters for the story hours. And because that was a part-time job, I had a full-time accounting job, I did the children's story hours because for me that was my way of giving back. So I did the story hours, so it was never high pressure for me because it wasn't how I made my living. It was something I did as a way to give back because that felt good to me. So inevitably, I didn't know this until my time in the store, but when you have a retail shop, neighboring retail shops will shop for good customer service people, and they'll try to steal them from stores. And that happened to me more than once, that I would have somebody from Home Depot try to steal me to their store, or at that time there was a Montgomery Ward's, and they were trying to steal me, and Sears was trying to steal me. But what they didn't understand is I had a passion for helping children, and the story hour was my thing, and so that's where I wanted to be. But they were always trying to steal me, and I'll never forget one time they were in there and they were trying to get me, and finally I talked them out and they left the room, and all of a sudden a head pops up on the other side of the bookshelf, and it was the manager, and she goes, I think I need to tell you how much I appreciate you. And I laughed and I said, remember, this is a second job and I do it because I care about the kids. I said, if it was anything other than that, I probably would have listened to their idea, but it's the kids that matter to me, and that's why I'm here. But I thought it was so funny because it is about, if you're likable, people will resonate towards you. And it is about that you care about them, not about you. It's not that anything that I'm telling somebody or recommending, it's because I truly believe in it, not because I think I'm going to get a paycheck for it. And that's a big difference in everything. It says, and this author was talking about how he actually does book signings as much as he possibly can, because book signings are that moment of a personal memory with someone. And I will tell you that when I was younger and my hair was red, and I think it might have been because she was so young, people used to tell me I look like Sarah Ferguson. Now, anybody close to me never thought that, but I had heard that a lot because I had long red hair. And when she was local here one time, I actually took a book and I have her autograph. But I wanted her autograph because everyone kept saying that to me, so I wanted her autograph. And that was a special moment. And I'm going to tell you, it was just a quick moment. She was walking out of an area and I was standing there and I opened the book and I said, everyone's always told me that I look like you. And it's not like that we ever do, but she said, let me stop. And she stopped to talk to me for a couple minutes and signed the book and moved on. Now, there's all kinds of turmoil about people later, and I'm not going to judge people on the things that did or didn't happen in their lives, but it was kind of a cool moment. So his idea of attending as many book signings as you can. I know that's kind of a cool thing too. When I go to Secret Knock, because there's a lot of people in Doc V's group that do the Secret Knock thing, the authors sign their books, and it's kind of fun too when you know them. It's like, okay, Doc V, you're going to sign this for me, and then you know them personally, or okay, Chris Ockel, are you going to sign this one for me, and it's kind of a fun thing, and it's like, sign it generic because I'm going to give this to a friend, something like that. But it gives you a few minutes of time with the author, and that's kind of a cool thing. So his comment about this, I think, is a good one. And then the last thing he said that I think is really important and I never thought about before is express disappointment when you can't add value. When you were trying to and it didn't work, and you can't, let that person know that you are disappointed because you really did want to add value. And it says that the things that make you a person that's able to add value is that you're available, you're compassionate, you're content, you're generous, you're gentle, you're a listener, you're loving, you're reliable, and you're thoughtful. Those are all the things that are kind of the natural characteristics of somebody that can slide into adding value easily. So I thought this was interesting because I really do like this book by John C. Maxwell. I think it's probably my third or fourth time through it. And every time I learned something or I refresh my mind of something. So my friend Sandra sent that to me, and I really appreciate that she did. And it's been about a year now, but I keep pulling it out because the information is amazing. So what I'll do is I'll end this on one last quote that was out of the book again, and it was Albert Einstein. And I know the way he writes his books is how my speaking coach talks to me about speaking. But anyways, I'll get back to the topic at hand. The last quote for this section is Albert Einstein. And the quote says, "Gentlemen, try not to become men of success. Rather become men of value." And I thought that was such a great quote. And it is funny because I can tell in this book by John C. Maxwell, 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication, I can see the similarities because he talks about Zig Ziglar, and Dan Clark, who is my speaking coach, talks about Zig Ziglar. So they all kind of run in the same circles, and you can see their similarities. But I think this information that he gave on adding value is excellent, and I'm going to revisit it a few times because, if I can get better at it, then I want to get better at it, because I think if I'm going to be here, I want to make each day better than the day before. And kind of like I said yesterday, I think if you keep your mind, your mind is a muscle, your brain is a muscle. If you keep it active, then maybe you can ward off some of the diseases that seem to happen to people as they age. So I do appreciate you guys more than you'll ever know. The fact that you followed me for so many years and always supported me means more to you than I could ever express in words. And I have been looking through Doc V's. I'm shocked at how many people responded, wanting me to go live back in that group again. I will be going live. I'm taking a look at all the posts to kind of figure out when I should do it. And I think I'll probably alternate to try to hit everybody, week to week or however I'm going to do that. But I will post in that group and let people know when I'm going to start going live in there again. But thank you guys. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know, and have a wonderful night.